You're about to see how people in Central Africa transport hundreds of pounds down volcanic mountains on nothing but wooden planks and bicycle wheels. And I'm going to show you exactly why they risk their lives doing it every single day. No brakes, no suspension, just wood, nails, and courage. Right now, on the steep mountain roads outside Goma in the Democratic Republic of Congo, thousands of men are flying downhill at terrifying speeds on handmade wooden scooters called Chukudus. They're carrying loads that would break most vehicles. They're navigating roads that would terrify experienced drivers. And they're doing it on a contraption that looks like it was built in someone's backyard, because it was. The Chukudu is simultaneously one of the most ingenious and one of the most dangerous forms of transportation on Earth. And before I explain why anyone would ride one, you need to understand what this thing actually is. Imagine a wooden plank about 2 meters long. That's your chassis, your frame, your entire vehicle structure. At the front, there's a steering column made from another piece of wood, standing upright like a handlebar. At the bottom of this contraption, there are 2 wheels, salvaged from old bicycles, attached directly to the wooden base. No gears, no chain, no pedals. Just wheels mounted to wood. The person riding this machine doesn't sit. They stand on a small platform near the back, one foot planted firmly on the wood, the other foot free to push against the ground. When they're going downhill, which is most of the time this matters, both feet are on the platform, and they're holding on for dear life to that wooden steering column, while gravity does all the work. But here's what makes this truly insane. The Chukudu isn't used for joyrides or recreation. It's a working vehicle, a cargo hauler, a livelihood for thousands of people. These riders, called Chukudu drivers or pushers, load their wooden scooters with sacks of charcoal, bags of vegetables, building materials, furniture, you name it. They're carrying loads of 200, 300, sometimes 400 pounds stacked high on that wooden frame. And if you're captivated by how something this dangerous became essential to survival, hit that like button and subscribe if you want more stories about real human ingenuity in the face of impossible circumstances. I only want to reach people who genuinely care about understanding how others live. People like you who stick around for the full story. Now, why would anyone create such a dangerous way to move goods? The answer is simpler and more brutal than you might think. In Eastern Congo, particularly around the city of Goma, the geography is dominated by volcanic mountains. The roads are steep, winding, and treacherous. Most importantly, they're unpaved, rutted, and completely unsuitable for normal vehicles. Motor vehicles exist here, but fuel is expensive. Roads are terrible. Maintenance is impossible for most people. A truck that works fine on a normal highway gets destroyed within months on these volcanic rock roads. The cost of operating motorized transport is beyond what most small traders and farmers can afford. Traditional human-powered options like pushing a wheelbarrow or carrying goods on your back are brutally inefficient on these steep mountain paths. Imagine carrying 100 pounds of charcoal on your back, up and down a mountain for hours. Your body gives out quickly. You can't carry enough to make decent money. You're limited by your physical strength alone. The Chukudu solves a specific problem: how to move heavy loads downhill quickly, using only gravity and human guidance. It's not designed for going uphill. That's important to understand. When Chukudu drivers need to go uphill with their loads, they push the scooter, walking beside it or behind it, using it essentially as a heavy wheelbarrow. The wooden scooter doesn't make uphill any easier. But downhill, that's where the Chukudu becomes a completely different machine. Loaded with cargo, guided by an experienced driver, a Chukudu can descend mountain roads at speeds that would shock you. 15, 20, sometimes 30 kilometers per hour. Let me describe what the construction process actually looks like, because understanding how these things are built reveals both the ingenuity and the danger inherent in their design. A Chukudu builder starts with rough-cut lumber, usually eucalyptus or other locally available hardwood. The main platform is typically made from planks about 15 to 20 centimeters wide and 3 to 4 centimeters thick. These are cut to roughly 2 meters in length. 2 or 3 of these planks are laid parallel and joined together with cross pieces nailed or screwed across them, creating a flat platform strong enough to support heavy loads. The front steering column is a crucial component. This is usually a single piece of wood, roughly 4 to 6 centimeters in diameter, shaped somewhat round or octagonal. standing about waist-high when installed. This column is mounted to the front of the platform through a simple pivot mechanism. In the most basic versions, this is just a large nail or bolt that allows the column to rotate left and right. More sophisticated builds might use a salvaged bicycle headset bearing, which allows smoother steering. The wheels come from abandoned or broken bicycles. In Eastern Congo, old bicycle wheels are relatively available because bicycles have been used for transportation for decades. When a bicycle frame breaks beyond repair, the wheels are salvaged. These wheels, complete with their axles and bearings, are then mounted to the Chukudu. The rear wheel is fixed directly to the back of the platform, providing stable support. The front wheel is attached to the bottom of the steering column, so when you turn the column, the wheel turns with it. The handlebar at the top of the steering column is usually a crosspiece of wood, sometimes wrapped with rubber or cloth for better grip. This is what the driver holds onto while riding. The entire construction process takes a skilled builder maybe 2 days of work. The materials cost varies, but in local context, maybe $10 to $20 worth of wood, nails, bolts, and salvaged bicycle parts. This is a significant investment for many in this region, but it's achievable, unlike the thousands of dollars required for a motorized vehicle. The resulting machine is crude but functional. There's no paint, no decoration, just raw wood and metal. Every single component is visible. There are no covers, no panels, no aesthetic considerations whatsoever. This is pure function, designed to do one job: move heavy loads downhill as efficiently as possible. But here's where the danger becomes impossible to ignore. The Chukudu has no braking system. Read that again, no brakes. On a vehicle that routinely travels at high speeds, down steep mountain roads, while carrying hundreds of pounds of cargo. How do drivers slow down or stop? A driver starts his day before dawn, often around 4 or 5 in the morning. He pushes his empty Chukudu uphill, walking beside it, heading toward the markets or farms in the hills above Goma, where goods need to be transported. This uphill journey might take an hour or 2 of hard physical labor, pushing the wooden scooter up steep, rocky paths. He reaches the loading point and beeps. There are sections where the road narrows to barely 2 meters wide, with steep drops on either side. There are blind corners where oncoming traffic, other Chukudus, going uphill, pedestrians, occasionally motor vehicles, might appear suddenly. The driver must constantly adjust the steering to navigate around obstacles. He must modulate his speed using foot braking to avoid losing control on steeper sections. He must maintain balance on the small platform while the Chukudu bounces and shakes over rough terrain. He must plan ahead, reading the road surface several meters in advance, because at these speeds, by the time you see a problem up close, it's too late to react. The physical demands are enormous. Your legs are constantly working to maintain balance and provide braking force. Your arms are straining to control the steering column, which wants to wrench out of your hands when the front wheel hits rocks or ruts. Your core is engaged constantly. Mistake can mean a crash. This continues for the entire descent, which might last 30 to 45 minutes, depending on the starting point and destination. By the time the driver reaches the bottom, typically at a market or delivery point in or near Goma, he's physically exhausted. But he's also accomplished something remarkable. He's transported several hundred pounds of goods down a mountain using only gravity and his own skill. He gets paid for this delivery. The exact amount varies based on the cargo type, distance, and negotiation, but typically it's a few dollars per load. In a region where most people live on less than $2 per day, a Chukudu driver who makes 3 or 4 trips can earn enough to support a family. Not comfortably, but enough to survive. Then the cycle repeats. Unload the cargo, push the empty Chukudu back uphill, load it again, descend again, all day long, until exhaustion or darkness makes continuing impossible. The dangers go beyond just crashes from loss of control. There are specific hazards that Chukudu drivers face regularly. Collisions with other vehicles are a constant threat. The roads around Goma are shared by Chukudus, bicycles, motorcycles, cars, trucks, and pedestrians. A Chukudu traveling downhill at speed cannot stop quickly. If a vehicle or person steps into the path unexpectedly, a collision is almost inevitable. Chukudus don't have horns or bells in most cases, so warning others is difficult. Drivers often shout warnings, but in the noise of busy roads, this isn't always effective. Mechanical failure is another serious risk. Remember, These are handmade machines, built from whatever materials are available. The wooden components can crack or split under stress. The wheel attachments can loosen or break. The steering mechanism can fail. If any of these failures happen during a high-speed descent with a heavy load, the driver has almost no chance of avoiding a crash. The wheels themselves are a vulnerability. These are salvaged bicycle wheels, often old and worn, not designed for the loads and stresses they're subjected to on Chukudus. Spokes break, rims bend, tires puncture. A wheel failure at speed is catastrophic. The Chukudu instantly becomes uncontrollable, usually flipping or veering off the road. Weather dramatically affects safety. During the rainy season, which lasts several months in this region, the roads become muddy and slippery. Foot braking becomes much less effective on wet surfaces. Steering becomes less predictable when wheels are sliding through mud. Visibility decreases in heavy rain. Yet the work doesn't stop. Goods still need to be transported. Families still need to eat. Drivers continue working in conditions that make an already dangerous job exponentially more hazardous. Road conditions deteriorate constantly. The volcanic rock roads are damaged by weather, by heavy traffic, by lack of maintenance. New potholes appear. Ruts deepen. Sections of road can wash out entirely during heavy rains. Drivers must constantly adapt to changing conditions, but sometimes the changes happen faster than knowledge can spread. A driver might descend a road they've used 100 times, expecting familiar conditions, and find a new obstacle that wasn't there yesterday. The physical toll on drivers is severe. The constant foot braking doesn't just wear out shoes, it causes injuries to feet, ankles, and legs. The jarring impacts from rough roads cause joint problems, back injuries, and repetitive stress damage. The crashes cause broken bones, lacerations, head injuries, and worse. Many Chukudu drivers bear visible scars from years of accidents. There's no safety equipment, no helmets, no protective padding, no gloves. Most drivers can't afford such things, and even if they could, the culture of Chukudu driving hasn't developed around safety gear. You ride in whatever clothes you have, with whatever shoes you can make last, and you accept the risks because the alternative is not working. Yet despite all these dangers, the Chukudu has become an essential part of the economy in Eastern Congo. Estimates suggest there are over 3,000 Chukudu drivers operating in and around Goma alone. Some estimates go higher, to 5 or even 10,000 when you include surrounding areas and smaller towns with similar geography. These thousands of drivers form a crucial link in the supply chain that feeds and provisions the city. The charcoal that cooks food in Goma's homes, much of it arrives by Chukudu. The vegetables sold in markets, many were transported on Chukudus. Building materials, furniture, trade goods of all kinds move from the mountainous areas into the city on these wooden scooters. Without Chukudus, this transportation would still happen, but it would be slower, more expensive, and require more people doing harder work. The Chukudu, for all its dangers, is actually more efficient than the alternatives available to people in this context. That's the brutal economic logic that keeps this system operating. The social structure around Chukudu driving is worth understanding. This isn't a random collection of individuals. It's an organized informal economy with its own rules, hierarchies, and systems. Most Chukudu drivers don't own their Chukudus. They rent them from owners who might have several machines. The rental fee might be $1 or $2 per day, or it might be a percentage of the day's earnings. This rental system means someone with a little capital can invest in building or buying Chukudus and then rent them out, creating a small business. The drivers themselves might be working towards saving enough to buy their own Chukudu, which would eliminate the rental fee and increase their take-home earnings. There are informal associations of Chukudu drivers at various markets and loading points. These groups establish practices around loading order, route management, and dispute resolution. If two drivers both want the same cargo, the group might have established rules about who gets priority. If a driver is injured and can't work, the group might help support them temporarily, or help find someone to temporarily take over their Chukudu rental. Experienced drivers command respect and can earn slightly higher fees because customers trust them to deliver goods safely. A new driver might struggle to find loads because traders worry their inexperience will lead to crashes and lost cargo. This creates an apprenticeship-like system where new drivers learn from experienced ones, gradually building reputation and skill. The knowledge required to be a successful Chukudu driver is more extensive than you might think. You need to know the roads intimately, where every difficult section is, where surface conditions tend to be worst, where traffic is heaviest at different times of day. You need to know how to load different types of cargo for stability. You need to understand the physics of weight distribution, how to position heavy items to keep the center of gravity as low and centered as possible. You need technical skills to maintain and repair your Chukudu, knowing how to tighten a loose wheel, replace a broken spoke, reinforce a cracked wooden component. These skills mean the difference between losing a day's work waiting for repairs or fixing the problem yourself in minutes and getting back to earning. You need negotiation skills to get fair payment for your work. The relationship between drivers and cargo owners can be tense. The cargo owner wants the cheapest transport. The driver wants fair compensation for the risk and labor. Without good negotiation skills, drivers can be exploited, earning less than their work warrants. Most remarkably, you need almost superhuman balance and reflexes. The ability to maintain control of a top-heavy, fast-moving, brakeless wooden scooter while descending a terrible road is not something most people could learn easily. It requires practice, natural aptitude, and a willingness to endure many crashes and injuries during the learning process. The origins of the Chukudu are somewhat murky, lost in the informal oral history of the region. The design appears to have emerged sometime in the mid-20th century, possibly in the 1970s or 1980s, though some accounts suggest similar vehicles existed earlier. The exact inventor isn't known, or at least isn't widely credited. This was likely a folk innovation that emerged from necessity and was gradually refined by many people over time. The name Chukudu itself is onomatopoeia, supposedly representing the sound the wooden wheels make as they roll over rough roads. Chukudu, Chukudu, Chukudu. Whether this origin story is accurate or apocryphal, it's the accepted explanation in the region. The design has remained remarkably consistent over the decades. You can look at photos of Chukudus from different years and different builders, and they're all recognizably the same machine. There's been no significant innovation or evolution in the basic design, which suggests it reached an optimal form early on for its specific purpose and context. Some minor variations exist. A few builders create slightly larger or smaller versions. Some use different wood types based on availability. Some steering mechanisms are slightly more sophisticated than others. But the fundamental design, wooden platform, salvaged wheels, upright steering column, no brakes, remains universal. This consistency also means knowledge transfers easily. A driver experienced on one Chukudu can operate any other Chukudu with minimal adjustment. The skills are universal across all machines. This contrasts sharply with motorized vehicles, where different models require different operating knowledge. The cultural significance of the Chukudu in Eastern Congo has grown beyond mere transportation. It's become a symbol of resilience and ingenuity in the face of difficult circumstances. Artists have incorporated Chukudus into visual art and performance. Journalists have featured them as examples of innovation in resource-scarce environments. Organizations focused on African innovation and problem-solving highlight the Chukudu as an example of appropriate technology that fits the specific needs and constraints of its context. For the people of Goma and surrounding areas, the Chukudu is simply part of daily life. Children grow up seeing Chukudus on the roads every day. Many young men aspire to become Chukudu drivers as a pathway to earning income. It's dangerous work, but it's available work, and availability matters enormously when formal employment is scarce. Some organizations have attempted to improve Chukudu safety. Experimental projects have tried adding basic brake systems using bicycle brake components. These efforts have had limited success because they add cost and complexity. A brake system needs regular maintenance, needs replacement parts, and can fail in ways that create new dangers. Most drivers prefer the simple, predictable, completely mechanical design they understand intimately over a slightly safer but more complex machine they don't fully trust. Other safety initiatives have focused on protective equipment, providing subsidized helmets or reinforced shoes to drivers. Uptake has been mixed. The cultural practice of Chukudu driving developed without safety equipment, and changing established practices is difficult. The economic reality is harsh too. A driver who can barely afford to eat isn't prioritizing a helmet purchase. Road improvement efforts would help tremendously. Better road surfaces would reduce crashes, reduce wear on the machines, and reduce physical stress on drivers. But road improvement in this region faces enormous challenges. The volcanic rock is difficult to work with. Funds for infrastructure are limited. Ongoing conflict and instability in Eastern Congo disrupts development efforts. The roads remain rough, and so Chukudu drivers continue navigating them with skill and courage. The broader context matters for understanding why the Chukudu exists and persists. Eastern Congo has experienced decades of conflict, instability, and economic disruption. Formal institutions are weak. Infrastructure is minimal. People survive through informal economic activities, creating systems and solutions that work within their constraints, rather than waiting for external help that might never come. The Chukudu embodies this reality perfectly. Nobody designed it through formal engineering processes. No government agency commissioned it. No aid organization introduced it. It emerged from the collective ingenuity of ordinary people solving a real problem with available resources. It persists because it works well enough to justify its continued use, despite the risks. This is important to understand because it's easy to look at the Chukudu from an outside perspective and think, this is dangerous and primitive. Someone should give them proper vehicles. But that perspective misses the point. Proper vehicles exist in Goma. There are trucks, cars, motorcycles. They're just not economically accessible to the people who need to move goods for survival. The Chukudu isn't used because better options don't exist. It's used because better options aren't accessible to the people doing this work. The economic calculation is straightforward. A Chukudu costs maybe $20 to build. It requires no fuel. Repairs are cheap and can be done with basic tools and local materials. A single driver can operate it. The earning potential, while modest, exists and is accessible immediately to someone with minimal capital. Compare that to motorized transport. A motorcycle costs hundreds or thousands of dollars. It requires fuel continuously. Fuel that must be purchased with scarce cash. It requires mechanical knowledge for repairs. Parts must be purchased, often at high prices due to limited supply chains. The roads destroy vehicles quickly, multiplying maintenance costs. For someone living in poverty, this is simply not an option. The Chukudu fills the gap between human load carrying and motorized transport. It amplifies human capability just enough to make a crucial difference in earning potential, without requiring resources that are completely out of reach. Looking at this from a pure physics perspective, the Chukudu is remarkably efficient at its specific task. Moving a heavy load downhill requires only that you control the release of gravitational potential energy. The load wants to go downhill. Gravity ensures this. Your job is just to control the descent, keeping it stable and directed along the path you want. The Chukudu does this with minimal mass overhead. The wooden frame and wheels might weigh 20 or 30 kilograms total. When you're transporting 200 kilograms of cargo, that's only a 15% overhead. Compare that to a truck, where the vehicle itself might weigh 2,000 kilograms to carry 500 kilograms of cargo, a 400% overhead. For uphill journeys, the Chukudu is obviously less efficient. You're pushing the dead weight of the frame and wheels along with whatever cargo you have. But here's the crucial insight. Most of the economic value in this context comes from the downhill journey. Goods are produced in the mountains and consumed in the lower city. The primary flow of valuable cargo is downhill. Moving empty Chukudus uphill is just positioning for the profitable downhill run. This geographic and economic reality makes the Chukudu's design perfectly adapted to its context. A vehicle optimized for uphill performance would necessarily be heavier, more complex, and more expensive. That vehicle would be worse at the downhill task that actually matters most. The danger, the risk, the injuries. These are the costs of accessing this economic opportunity with minimal capital investment. It's a brutal trade-off, but for many in this region, it's a trade-off worth making. The alternative might be no income at all. International attention to the Chukudu has been sporadic but recurring. Journalists periodically discover Chukudus and write amazed articles about these incredible wooden scooters. Documentary filmmakers have featured them. Travel bloggers photograph them. This attention rarely translates into meaningful change for the drivers themselves. Some of this attention has been positive, bringing awareness to the challenges people in Eastern Congo face and highlighting human ingenuity. Some has been less helpful, exoticizing or sensationalizing the Chukudu as a curiosity, rather than engaging seriously with the economic and social realities that make it necessary. What would actually help? Better road infrastructure would transform Chukudu safety overnight. Economic development that creates alternative employment would reduce the number of people who need to take these risks. Accessible microcredit for purchasing safer vehicles could help drivers transition to better options. Stronger governance and reduced conflict would enable all of these improvements. But these are massive, complex challenges without simple solutions. In the meantime, the Chukudus keep rolling. Drivers keep pushing uphill and descending downhill. Goods keep moving. Families keep eating. Life continues in Eastern Congo with the tools and methods that exist, not the ones that might someday be available. The Chukudu teaches a broader lesson about human adaptability and problem solving. When faced with impossible constraints, terrible roads, no money, need to transport goods, need to earn income, people don't simply give up. They look at what they have, they think creatively, they take risks, and they find solutions that work well enough to survive. These solutions might not be pretty, they might not be safe by the standards of wealthy countries. They might make outside observers uncomfortable, but they're real, they're functional, and they're the difference between economic survival and destitution for thousands of people. The wooden scooter that looks like a death trap is actually a lifeline. The machine that appears primitive is actually appropriate technology, perfectly adapted to its context. The practice that seems recklessly dangerous is actually a calculated risk that people take because the alternative is worse. You now understand what a Chukudu is, how it's built, how it's used, why it exists, and what it means to the people who depend on it. You've seen how extreme poverty and difficult geography combine to create demand for transportation solutions that work with minimal resources. You've learned about the skill, courage, and daily risk that Chukudu drivers accept to earn a modest living. The next time you see an image of someone riding a wooden scooter down a mountain loaded with cargo, you won't just see a curiosity or an exotic oddity. You'll see a working person using the tools available to them, navigating real dangers to support real families, participating in an informal economy that functions despite having almost no resources to work with. That's the real story of the Chukudu. Not a strange wooden scooter, but human determination finding a way forward when the path seems impossible.